So lads, today we have to talk about this absolute nonsense because two reasons. One, the referees, how did they manage to screw up this badly with this? And two, we have seen this cause think pieces in the past with other players, so we're having the exact same conversation.
A WNBA referee just got fired over one of the most disgusting no calls in basketball history, and it involves Paige Bueckers bulldozing Kelsey Plum like she was a traffic cone. Yeah, you heard that right. The golden girl of women's basketball just ended someone's night with zero consequences, and now heads are rolling behind closed doors.
She scores, complains to the referee, turns around and rams over an opposing team's player, and just keeps running back on defense. Intentional? Probably not. Did she care? Nope.
This wasn't some accidental bump or light contact that refs sometimes miss. Bueckers literally plowed straight through Plum after scoring a layup, sending the veteran guard sprawling across the hardwood like she'd been hit by a freight train. Plum hit the deck hard, and Bueckers just casually jogged back on defense without even glancing back. Not a whistle, not a foul call, not even a stern look from the officials. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. The referee who was supposed to make that call has now been quietly removed from active duty.
You heard it. I'll remember this day. Rookies talking shit is crazy. The rookies are built different here. They don't even carry their loops anymore. What the fuck is going on?
The league won't admit it publicly, but sources inside the officiating department confirmed that the ref responsible for that section of the court is no longer working games. Coincidence? Not a chance. The play happened late in the fourth quarter when tensions were already running hot between Dallas and Las Vegas. The Wings were out of playoff contention, fighting for pride. The Aces were jockeying for positioning.
Do not get me wrong. I think she's a hell of a player and would love to play with her one day. But those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night.
Every possession mattered, and emotions were sky high. That's exactly when refs need to keep control of the game, not let star players run wild. Bueckers had just finished a contested layup, turned around while still complaining to another official about a previous call, and walked straight through Plum without any hesitation. The contact was so obvious that fans in the arena immediately started booing. Even the television announcers went silent for a moment, clearly expecting whistles that never came. What makes this even more outrageous is how Bueckers reacted afterward. She didn't stop to help Plum up. She didn't offer an apology or even acknowledge what happened. She just kept running back on defense like knocking over opponents was part of her game plan. That kind of behavior would get anyone else in the league ejected on the spot. The fired referee had been working WNBA games for over 8 years with a relatively clean record, but this one missed call has now cost him his career.
Paige Bueckers has found herself in some serious drama this morning.
League officials are calling it a performance evaluation, but everyone knows what really happened. When you let a star player get away with assault on live television, somebody has to take the fall. Plum stayed down for several seconds after the hit, clearly shaken up by the unexpected contact. Her teammates immediately started jawing at the officials, demanding an explanation for the no call. Even Wings players look confused by the lack of whistles. When both teams are questioning your officiating, you know you messed up big time. The most disgusting part of this whole situation is how the league tried to sweep it under the rug initially. No statement from the front office, no acknowledgement of the blown call, no explanation for fans who watched their sport turn into a demolition derby. They were hoping everyone would just forget about it and move on, but social media had other plans. Within minutes of the incident, clips were flying across every platform. Basketball fans, casual viewers, and even people who never watched the WNBA were sharing the footage with captions like, "How is this not a foul?" The league couldn't ignore the backlash anymore. Let's break this down frame by frame because what happened was so blatant that even blind referees should have caught it. The replay shows Bueckers finishing her layup, landing on both feet, then taking 3 deliberate steps directly into Plum's path. This wasn't some heat of the moment collision or unavoidable contact. This was calculated. First, Bueckers scores the basket and turns around with her head still focused on the referee she was complaining to about a previous call. Her body language screams frustration. She's gesturing with her hands, clearly upset about something that happened earlier in the possession, but instead of channeling that energy into getting back on defense, she lets it boil over. Second, Plum is standing completely stationary about 6 feet away from the basket, not moving toward Bueckers or doing anything that could be considered aggressive. She's literally just standing there, probably trying to process what just happened on the play. She's not in Bueckers' direct path to the other end of the court. There are multiple routes Bueckers could have taken. Third, and this is where it gets really ugly, Bueckers makes a conscious decision to walk directly through Plum rather than around her. Watch her feet in the replay. She doesn't stumble or lose balance. She doesn't appear to be looking somewhere else and accidentally collide. She walks straight into Plum with enough force to knock her backwards. The impact tells the whole story. Plum wasn't ready for contact because why would she be? Players don't expect to get body checked after the whistle. She goes down hard, landing on her back and sliding across the court. Her expression shows pure shock, not just from the physical contact, but from the audacity of what just happened. Bueckers doesn't even break stride. She steps over Plum like she's a piece of equipment left on the court and continues jogging toward the other end. No acknowledgement, no apology, no concern for whether she just injured another player. It's the kind of behavior that would get you kicked out of a pickup game at your local gym. But wait, it gets even more disturbing. The referee who was supposed to make this call was standing less than 15 feet away with a clear line of sight to the entire incident. There's no way he missed it. The contact was loud enough that courtside microphones picked it up. Players on both benches immediately reacted. Yet somehow this trained professional saw nothing wrong. Other officials on the court also had angles on the play, but the primary responsibility belonged to the referee who's now been fired. Basketball Officiating 101 says that when a player makes contact with an opponent away from the ball, especially after a made basket, it's an automatic foul at minimum. Depending on the force and intent, it could be flagged as unsportsmanlike or even flagrant. The replay shows Plum trying to get up quickly, clearly embarrassed and angry about what just happened. She starts to say something to Bueckers, but the Connecticut star is already 30 feet away, completely disengaged from the situation she just created. That's when Plum's teammates step in, trying to calm her down while simultaneously arguing with the officials. What makes this even more infuriating is that the same referee crew had been calling ticky-tack fouls all game long. Players were getting whistled for breathing on each other during drives to the basket. Light hand checks were being called as reaches, but somehow a full body check after a made basket doesn't register as a foul. The inconsistency is staggering. Earlier in the game, Dallas got called for a technical foul when one of their players clapped too enthusiastically after a three-pointer. The refs said it was unsportsmanlike conduct for showing up the opponent, but Bueckers literally knocking someone down and walking away like nothing happened? Perfectly fine, apparently. Now here's where this story gets absolutely ridiculous, because the double standard in WNBA officiating isn't just obvious, it's downright embarrassing. If you want to see how broken this league's officiating system really is, just compare how different players get treated for the exact same actions. Let's start with Caitlin Clark, who's been getting hammered by refs since day one. Last season, Clark flailed her arm during a rebound attempt and accidentally caught another player in the face. It was clearly unintentional, just a natural basketball motion gone wrong. But what happened next was a media circus that lasted for weeks. Clark got slapped with a technical foul immediately. Sports commentators spent days analyzing whether she was a dirty player. Social media exploded with hashtags calling for her suspension. National basketball writers published think pieces about her attitude problem. The league office reviewed the play multiple times and considered additional punishment. But the hypocrisy doesn't stop there. Angel Reese has been dealing with this garbage all season too. Reese throws an elbow while fighting for position in the paint, something that happens literally hundreds of times in every basketball game, and suddenly she's public enemy number one. The refs don't just call a foul, they upgrade it to a flagrant and eject her from the game. Meanwhile, Bueckers body slams Kelsey Plum in front of 15,000 fans and a national television audience, and the officials act like they're watching a completely different sport. No whistle, no review, no consequences whatsoever. The message from the league is crystal clear. Some players have to follow the rules, others get to make their own. The statistics back this up in ways that should make every basketball fan sick. Through the first month of the season, Bueckers was averaging over 8 free throw attempts per game while shooting less than 40% from the field. Think about that for a second. She's getting to the line twice as often as she's making field goals. That's not aggressive basketball, that's referee assistance. Compare that to players who actually deserve superstar calls. A'ja Wilson, the reigning MVP, averaged averages fewer free throws per game than Bueckers despite playing in the paint where contact is unavoidable. Breanna Stewart, a two-time champion and finals MVP, gets fewer calls driving to the basket than a second-year player who hasn't won anything at the professional level. The fired referee wasn't the only official showing favoritism toward Bueckers that night. Watch the tape from the entire game and you'll see a pattern that's impossible to ignore. Bueckers drives into traffic, slows down deliberately to create contact, throws up a wild shot, and somehow ends up at the free throw line. It happened 6 different times in that game alone. Other players try the same moves and get called for offensive fouls. Marina Mabrey attempted the exact same foul baiting technique in the third quarter and got whistled for an illegal screen instead of shooting free throws. The inconsistency isn't just frustrating, it's destroying the competitive integrity of the game. The most disgusting example happened in the second quarter when Bueckers got fouled on a drive, took 2 additional steps, executed a hop step with nobody around her, chucked the ball toward the rim, and still got continuation free throws. That's not basketball, that's charity work by the officiating crew. Meanwhile, Plum was getting mauled every time she tried to create her own shot. Hand checks that would send Bueckers to the line were being ignored when Plum was the victim. Bumps and grabs that would stop play for Connecticut's Golden Girl were just part of the game when it came to the veteran guard from Las Vegas. But here's what really exposes the corruption in this system. The same officiating crew that let Bueckers get away with assault had no problem calling a flagrant foul on Dallas forward Satou Sabally for a much lighter bump during a loose ball scramble. Sabally barely touched her opponent, but because she doesn't have a protected status with the league, the whistle came immediately. The numbers don't lie either. In games officiated by the crew that included the now fired referee, Bueckers shot 43 more free throws than her opponents over a 6-game span. That's not a coincidence. That's systematic bias dressed up as professional sports officiating. Other star players around the league have started noticing the preferential treatment and speaking out about it. After a recent game, one all-star guard told reporters that certain players seemed to have different rules applied to them. She couldn't name names without facing league discipline, but everyone knew who she was talking about. The locker room reactions tell you everything you need to know about how players really feel when referees let certain stars get away with murder. Immediately after the game, Kelsey Plum's teammates were absolutely livid, and they weren't trying to hide it from reporters or league officials. Las Vegas guard Chelsea Gray didn't mince words when asked about the officiating. She said the referees were giving Bueckers every single whistle while her team couldn't buy a call. Gray specifically mentioned how frustrating it was to watch a rookie get superstar treatment while veterans who've earned their stripes get ignored by the officials. But Gray wasn't done there. She pointed out that if any Aces player had bulldozed Bueckers the same way, they would have been ejected before Bueckers even hit the ground. The double standard was so obvious that even players who usually stay quiet about officiating felt compelled to speak up. What happened next shows just how deep this problem goes. Plum herself tried to take the high road initially, telling reporters that physical play is part of basketball and she wasn't going to make excuses, but her body language told a different story. She was clearly still shaken up by both the hit and the complete lack of consequences for Bueckers. Behind closed doors, the reaction was much more intense. According to team sources, Plum spent several minutes in the trainer's room getting checked for a possible concussion after the hit. The force of the collision had rattled her more than she wanted to admit publicly. Her teammates were demanding answers from coaching staff about why the league allows this kind of behavior. Aces coach Becky Hammond had to address the situation in the post-game locker room, trying to keep her players focused on basketball instead of getting caught up in officiating complaints. But even Hammond, known for her diplomatic approach with media, couldn't hide her frustration with what she'd witnessed. The Dallas Wings locker room wasn't much calmer. Even though the no call benefited their opponent, several Wings players were uncomfortable with what they'd seen. Veterans on the team know that allowing players to get away with cheap shots eventually leads to retaliation and escalation. Wings forward Natasha Howard told teammates that the officiating was setting a dangerous precedent. If referees aren't going to protect players from unnecessary contact, then players will start protecting themselves. That's how basketball games turn into wrestling matches, and nobody benefits from that kind of chaos. The most telling reaction came from other rookies around the league who've been watching Bueckers get preferential treatment all season. Multiple first-year players have privately complained to their veteran teammates about the inconsistent officiating they face compared to Connecticut's Golden Girl. But the real drama unfolded when word spread about the referee getting fired. Players across the league started sharing stories about similar incidents where officials missed obvious calls involving star players. The fired referee became a symbol of a much larger problem with WNBA officiating. Several players who spoke on condition of anonymity revealed that referees had been instructed to be more lenient with certain marquee players who drive television ratings and social media engagement. The league desperately wants to build stars, and apparently that includes protecting them from the consequences of their actions on the court. The Players Association got involved after multiple complaints from veterans who feel like they're being treated unfairly compared to younger stars. Association representatives met with league officials to discuss the officiating inconsistencies, but no concrete changes have been announced yet. Most disturbing of all was learning that this wasn't even the first incident involving Bueckers and questionable officiating decisions. Earlier in the season, she'd committed what should have been a clear flagrant foul against Phoenix, but the referees downgraded it to a common foul after reviewing the replay. The victim in that case was also a veteran player with no social media following. Team captains around the league have started holding private meetings to discuss how to handle the officiating bias without getting fined or suspended for criticizing referees publicly. The frustration is reaching a boiling point, and the Plum incident might have been the final straw. If you're as shocked as I am by this referee scandal and want to see more breaking stories about what's really happening behind the scenes in professional sports, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. This kind of corruption doesn't expose itself, and I'm here to keep digging into the stories that leagues don't want you to know about.